If you are over 60 and you keep hearing that healthy eating has to be complicated, expensive, or bland, let me stop you right there. It does not. In fact, a few very ordinary foods can do a remarkable amount of heavy lifting for your muscles, your brain, your digestion, and your heart, and some of them may already be sitting in your kitchen right now. I'm Dr. Charles Oliver, and after years of caring for older adults, I can tell you food changes health faster than most people expect. So subscribe, share this with someone you love, and let's make this practical. Food. 1. Eggs. I'll start with eggs because, to be honest, I think they are one of the most unfairly underestimated foods in later life. I say that as someone who often eats eggs myself on busy clinic mornings because they are simple, filling, and they solve a problem I see all the time in seniors. People are eating enough calories to get through the day, but not enough quality protein to protect their muscles. You know what happens then? Getting out of a chair feels harder, stairs feel steeper, balance gets a little shakier, recovery after illness takes longer. Now, why does that happen? Think of your muscles like a house that constantly needs small repairs. In younger years, the builders show up quickly, even after a modest meal. As we get older, those builders become harder to call in. The signal has to be louder. Protein is that signal. Eggs help because they bring highly usable protein in a portion that does not feel overwhelming, and they also provide nutrients like choline that matter for brain health. There was a study in the Journals of Gerontology that looked at how much protein older men needed in a meal to really switch on muscle protein synthesis, and the takeaway was pretty clear. Older adults often need a solid dose at one sitting, not just a token amount. Another study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition linked dietary choline intake with lower risk of dementia in older adults, which, if you think about it, is actually quite remarkable, because eggs are one of the most practical choline sources most families can afford. A lot of you will be wondering, what about cholesterol? Fair question. Honestly, this is where online nutrition advice gets messy. For most people, eating eggs in sensible amounts is not the same thing as eating a diet packed with processed meat, pastries, and fried takeaway food. The bigger picture matters far more than one single food. I'm not going to overstate the evidence here, and I'm certainly not telling every viewer to eat 6 eggs a day, but 1 or 2 eggs as part of a balanced meal can be a smart choice for many seniors, especially if breakfast has been mostly toast and tea. And here's something I've noticed over and over. People often think they are too old to build back strength. That is simply not true. Harder than at 40? Yes. Impossible? No. Give the body decent protein regularly, and you at least give it the raw materials to respond to movement, walking, and resistance work. Skip protein over and over, and you make the job much harder. That is why I care about eggs so much. They are not fashionable. They are useful. So what should you do tomorrow? Easy. Have 2 eggs with spinach, tomatoes, or leftover vegetables, and if your appetite is poor, add a slice of whole grain toast rather than skipping breakfast altogether. If chewing meat has become difficult, eggs can help you keep protein intake up without feeling like work. Right then, let's move to a food that protects health in a very different way. Food 2, beans and lentils. I have a soft spot for beans and lentils because they do something many medications try to do, only more gently. They steady the system. I often see older adults whose energy rises and crashes all day long because meals are built around white bread, biscuits, or sugary snacks. Then they tell me they feel tired, hungry, bloated, and constipated. And here's the thing, that pattern is not just annoying. Over time, it can make blood sugar control, weight, bowel function, and even cholesterol harder to manage. Beans and lentils work because they slow things down in the best possible way. Imagine pouring water onto dry ground versus onto a sponge. A refined carbohydrate hits fast and disappears fast. A bowl with lentils, chickpeas, or beans behaves more like that sponge. The fiber slows digestion, the starch gets absorbed more gradually, and your gut bacteria get something useful to feed on. That means steadier blood sugar, better bowel movement regularity, and often a fuller feeling that lasts longer. One of the most interesting pieces of evidence comes from the Greek epic analysis published in the BMJ, which looked at the Mediterranean diet and found that some of the strongest contributors to lower mortality included foods like legumes and olive oil. More recently, a large review in BMC Medicine looking at dietary patterns in older adults also supported the idea that Mediterranean-style eating, rich in legumes, links with lower risks of chronic disease and death. Now, no, that does not mean one bowl of lentil soup is a magic shield. But it does tell us that the humble foods many people overlook keep showing up in populations that age better. You know what I like most about beans? They are forgiving. You do not need to cook like a chef. A lot of you will be wondering whether canned beans count. Yes, they do. Rinse them if you want to reduce some of the salt, add them to soup, fold them into a stew, or simply toss them with chopped cucumber, onion, olive oil, and lemon. If you are worried about gas, start small. Half a cup a few times a week is far better than avoiding them altogether. And if constipation has become one of those private frustrations nobody talks about, stay with me because this matters. Sometimes the answer is not another laxative. Sometimes it is better hydration and a more consistent intake of fiber from actual food. Beans can help with that, especially when you build them into lunch instead of relying on crackers or processed snack foods. They also help if your budget is tight, and let's be honest, for many retirees that matters. Good nutrition has to be realistic. Cheap, nourishing, and versatile is a powerful combination. Okay, so now let's talk about the food I wish every senior ate almost daily for the sake of the brain. Food. 3. Leafy greens. I tell patients this all the time, and honestly, some of them roll their eyes because it sounds too simple. But the older I get and the more evidence I read, the more I respect leafy greens. Spinach, kale, rocket, chard, even a good handful of mixed salad leaves. These are not glamorous foods. They are not trendy. Yet they are packed with folate, vitamin K, lutein, nitrates, magnesium, and a whole range of compounds your body quietly uses every day. Now, what do leafy greens actually do? Think of them as maintenance staff for the body's wiring and plumbing. Some of their nutrients support blood vessels so blood can move more efficiently. Some help the brain and nerves handle signals properly. Some help control inflammation and oxidative stress, which is just a technical way of saying the wear and tear that builds up with age. You may not feel that happening in real time, but your body absolutely notices. There was a Rush University study published in Neurology that got a lot of attention for a good reason. Older adults who ate about 1 serving of green leafy vegetables a day had a slower rate of cognitive decline, with brain function that looked years younger than those who rarely ate them. Then, years later, the mind diet work in journals like JAMA Psychiatry kept pointing in the same direction, with green leafy vegetables and berries showing up again and again in connection with lower dementia risk. Now, to be fair, the randomized mind diet trial published in the New England Journal of Medicine did not show a dramatic advantage over the control group, so I want to be honest about that. The story is promising, not magical. Still, the consistency of the observational data is strong enough for me to take leafy greens seriously. Why am I being so careful here? Because trust matters. There is too much nutrition content online that takes one positive signal and turns it into a miracle cure by lunchtime. I will not do that with you. What I will say is this: if a food is nutrient-dense, low-cost, easy to combine with other meals, and repeatedly linked with better aging outcomes, I pay attention. Honestly, that is a very sensible threshold, and if you're finding this useful, which I really hope you are, then please do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a parent, partner, or friend. It genuinely helps more people see practical, evidence-based health advice, and that is why I make these videos. Back to the greens. A lot of you will be wondering, what if I do not enjoy salads? Fine. Do not force cold lettuce on yourself if you hate it. Wilt spinach into eggs. Stir kale into soup. Blend a handful into a stew or pasta sauce. Sauté chard with garlic and a little olive oil. The goal is not perfection. The goal is repetition. If you eat a decent portion of leafy greens 4 or 5 times this week, you have done something useful for your future self. Moving on, let's get into the breakfast food that can help your heart, your gut, and even your appetite control. Food 4. Oats. I recommend oats so often that my family laughs about it, but there is a reason. Oats are one of those rare foods that are cheap, familiar, and genuinely effective. In older adults, that matters. If a food is healthy but nobody wants to eat it, it is not much use. Oats work in the real world. They are soft, easy to prepare, kind to the stomach for many people, and they carry a type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan that deserves a lot more respect than it gets. Here's the simple analogy. Imagine your digestive tract and bloodstream dealing with breakfast traffic. A sugary cereal is like opening every lane and letting chaos rush through at once. Oats are more like having a calm traffic officer at the junction. The soluble fiber forms a kind of gel in the gut, which slows absorption, helps with satiety, and can help pull some cholesterol out of circulation. That is not hype. That is one of the better established nutrition mechanisms we have. A study in JAMA Network Open using data from the Cardiovascular Health Study looked at more than 4,000 older adults and found that higher total fiber, and especially cereal fiber intake, was associated with lower inflammation, and part of the lower cardiovascular disease risk appeared to run through those inflammatory pathways. Older studies in JAMA also linked whole grain intake with lower stroke risk, which, if you think about it, is actually quite remarkable for such an ordinary bowl of food. Now, I need to say something important. I'm not going to sit here and tell you oats are a cure-all. They are not. If you pour sugar over them, add syrup, and call that heart healthy, you have missed the point. Some people also tolerate oats better than others, and if you have significant digestive symptoms, you may need to adjust portions or discuss it with your clinician. But for most seniors, plain or minimally processed oats are one of the simplest ways to improve fiber quality without spending a fortune. And here's the thing, appetite changes with age. Some people stop feeling hungry. Others crave sweet foods because they are easy to eat. Oats can be helpful in both situations. They are gentle enough for a smaller appetite, but substantial enough to keep you from grazing on biscuits an hour later. If you add protein alongside them, even better. That is how you turn a soft, comforting breakfast into one that actually supports energy and health across the day. Practical tip? Make porridge with milk or unsweetened fortified soy milk. Add a spoon of ground flax if you like, and top it with berries or chopped nuts instead of brown sugar. If you prefer savory food, yes, savory oats can work too. Add an egg, some spinach, and black pepper, and suddenly breakfast becomes far more nourishing. And this next one is probably the most overlooked, partly because people think of it as just a cooking ingredient. It is not just a cooking ingredient. Food 5. Extra virgin olive oil. I keep extra virgin olive oil in my own kitchen for one reason above all others. It makes healthy food easier to eat consistently. Vegetables taste better with it. Beans taste better with it. Fish tastes better with it. And when a food helps you stick to a healthier pattern, that matters more than nutrition arguments on social media ever will. So why does olive oil deserve a place on this list? Because it is not just fat in the generic sense. Extra virgin olive oil carries monounsaturated fats and polyphenols that seem to help with inflammation, blood vessel function, and oxidation. Think of it like using a better quality lubricant in an engine. The machinery still works either way, but over time the better lubricant tends to reduce friction and wear. Your blood vessels are not engines, obviously, but as an analogy, it helps. The strongest study here is the pre-dimed trial, published in the New England Journal of Medicine. It followed people at high cardiovascular risk and found that those assigned to a Mediterranean diet supplemented with extra virgin olive oil or nuts had a lower incidence of major cardiovascular events than those assigned to a low-fat diet. More recently, a large JAMA internal medicine cohort study found that higher intake of plant-based oils was associated with lower total mortality and lower cancer and cardiovascular mortality, while butter intake moved in the other direction. Now, that does not mean you need to drink olive oil by the shot glass. Please do not do that. It means using it in place of less helpful fats is a smart trade over time. To be honest, this is one of my favorite examples of how healthy eating does not have to feel like punishment. People imagine they must live on dry food forever. No. Good olive oil adds flavor, helps vegetables feel satisfying, and can make a simple meal feel worth eating. That matters for seniors living alone, Because the less enjoyable food feels, the more likely meals get skipped or replaced with processed convenience foods. You know the pattern: tea, toast, maybe a biscuit, and then not much else. That is not enough nourishment for aging well. A lot of you will be wondering how much is sensible. A drizzle on vegetables, over beans, into soups, or as part of a salad dressing is enough to start. If your doctor has you on a specific medically supervised diet, stick with that advice, of course. But in general, replacing some butter, shortening, or heavily processed spreads with extra virgin olive oil is a sensible move. Pair it with tomatoes, leafy greens, or lentils, and you have the beginnings of the sort of eating pattern that keeps showing up in longevity research. And here's the thing: none of these foods works alone. Eggs help you hold on to muscle. Beans and lentils help steady blood sugar and support the gut. Leafy greens quietly support the brain and circulation. Oats help with fiber, fullness, and cholesterol. Extra virgin olive oil helps make the whole pattern more protective and more enjoyable. That is how real health works. Small decisions, repeated often enough that your body starts to feel the difference. So this week, make it easy on yourself. Buy eggs. Open a tin of beans. Put spinach in something. Cook oats twice. Use olive oil deliberately. You do not need a perfect diet by Monday morning. You need a better pattern than the one that is wearing you down. Honestly, that is how progress usually looks in real life. Small wins count, and your body notices them sooner than you think once you repeat them every week. Thank you for spending this time with me. I really hope this has made healthy eating for later life feel less confusing and more doable. If it helped, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a little encouragement right now. And if you want to go deeper, I've done other videos on simple senior nutrition, heart health, memory protection, and building strength as you age. So have a search around the channel and keep learning with me. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.